Welcome to History Teller. Here, we explore the past to learn and remember.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to completely reframe a historical figure you probably thought you knew. We're looking at Genghis Khan, not just as this terrifying conqueror, but as an architect of global trade. I mean, we're talking about the ultimate case study in extreme macro management. So if you're an executive, a leader, or honestly just someone fascinated by massive organizational restructuring, the scale the Mongol Empire operated on is just absolutely unparalleled. Let's get right into it. So here's the massive paradox we have to wrestle with. How do we reconcile these two totally contrasting images of the guy? On one hand, you've got the ultimate monster of the medieval world, a leader whose campaigns literally wiped out entire populations and erased ancient cities. But then, on the other hand, you have the creator of the very first truly globalized society. He established this golden age of science, communication, and trade known as the Pax Mongolica. It's just a staggering duality, right? Total destruction versus unprecedented creation. To really understand his operational mechanics, we're going to break this down into 4 distinct phases. First, the hostile takeover. Second, securing the supply chain. Third, agile infrastructure and policies. And finally, we'll look at the long-term ROI.
Let's start with Section 1, the hostile takeover.
Okay, in corporate terms, this was, without a doubt, the most aggressive, scorched earth, hostile takeover in human history. The sheer scale of this elimination phase is almost hard to wrap your head around. Historians estimate that Genghis Khan and his successors killed somewhere between 30 to 40 million people. To put that into perspective, that effectively eliminated a staggering 10% of the entire global population at the time. 10%. That permanently wiped out a massive portion of the addressable market across northern China, Kiev and Rus, and Persia, literally altering the geopolitical landscape forever.
Now, you might be wondering what actually triggered this extreme response. Well, often it was simply a breach of contract. Take Persia, for example. When a Mongol trade caravan was killed in the Khwarezmian Empire, Genghis Khan didn't just issue a penalty, he unleashed absolute annihilation. Incredibly rich cities of learning like Nishapur and Samarkand were just reduced to ash heaps. His forces systematically destroyed ancient, highly advanced irrigation networks, turning fertile farmlands into barren deserts for centuries. And get this, the destruction was so total and the depopulation so massive that the earth actually saw reforestation of those cleared agricultural lands. That new forest absorbed so much carbon dioxide from the atmosphere that it created a minor artificial cooling of the entire planet. Wild, right?
Moving right along to Section 2, securing the supply chain. So once this horrific, hostile takeover was complete, the Mongols actually pivoted. They executed a masterclass in market consolidation known as the Pax Mongolica, or the Mongol Peace. They completely transitioned from conquerors to administrators, and they achieved something modern multinational organizations literally dream of: total market monopoly and absolute supply chain security. Think about it. For the very first time in history, the entire length of the Silk Road was under the control of a single unified empire. They enforced absolute law and order across a continent that used to be incredibly fractured and dangerous. There's this famous quote that beautifully illustrates the sheer strictness of Mongol justice. It was said that a young maiden carrying a golden basin could walk from one end of the empire to the other completely unharmed. When you enforce a zero-tolerance policy for disruption like they did, your trade routes become the safest places on Earth. They guaranteed unprecedented safety for absolutely anyone operating within that vast, interconnected network. And because of this unmatched security, we saw the unrestricted transfer of intellectual property on a truly global scale. Goods, technologies, ideas, they all flowed totally freely between China, Persia, and Europe. We're talking major innovations here. Printing technology, papermaking, gunpowder, and advanced math all flowing westward along these highly secure channels. In a very real way, this secured supply chain actually helped spark the European Renaissance centuries later. It was a real game changer. All right, Section 3, agile infrastructure and policies.
To maintain this massive continent-spanning operation, Genghis Khan proved to be a shockingly progressive administrator. He implemented agile infrastructure that was literally centuries ahead of its time. We can categorize these administrative innovations into 3 core steps that secured the empire's internal stability. First, the Yam postal system. Second, religious tolerance. And third, a unified written language.
First up, he solved the ultimate logistics hurdle with the Yam postal system. He set up this strict, decentralized logistics network of horse relay stations spaced roughly every 25 miles. Because of this, messages could travel thousands of miles in just a matter of days. As we all know, if you're managing a global enterprise, rapid communication is non-negotiable. The Yam system was, effectively, the high-speed internet of the medieval world. It ensured that executive orders from the capital reached the furthest outposts with incredible speed.
Now, this is where his policies directly translate to modern executive strategy. To ensure internal peace and, let's call it what it is, diverse talent retention, Genghis Khan instituted complete religious freedom under Mongol law. Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, they were all free to practice. He even went a step further by offering strategic employee incentives. He granted tax exemptions to religious leaders, doctors, and scholars, simply because he recognized he needed specialized talent to run this global enterprise. Finally, to standardize operations, he commissioned a unified writing system for the Mongolian language. This created a standardized legal code that everyone across the empire had to follow. We're talking standardized operating procedures on a global scale.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 4, the long-term ROI.
So, we've looked at the aggressive acquisition phase and the massive operational restructuring. But what was the ultimate return on investment left behind by this incredibly complex ruler? Well, aside from all the cultural and trade impacts we discussed, a landmark 2003 genetic study revealed a jaw-dropping data point about his physical legacy. Get this, roughly 8% of men living within the boundaries of the former Mongol Empire share an identical Y chromosome lineage that traces directly back to Genghis Khan himself. When you zoom out and look at that globally, that translates to about 1 in 200 men alive worldwide today carrying his direct genetic code. I mean, wow. It is an absolutely unparalleled physical and demographic footprint left on the human race by a single individual. Just looking at his timeline, the entire trajectory is breathtaking. I mean, he began his life as a desperate, starving outcast on the vast Mongolian steppe, but over his reign, he became both this brutal destroyer and a brilliant master nation builder, completely reshaping the political, genetic, and cultural map of the world. And yet, for a man who left such a massive, highly visible mark on global history, his journey ended in 1227 under really mysterious circumstances. His final resting place actually remains one of history's greatest unsolved secrets, because he was buried in unmarked grave specifically to prevent disturbance. Talk about the ultimate quiet exit. As we wrap up this explainer on history's most extreme case study in macro management, I really want you to consider this final question. Between the ruthless shadow of his conquests and the incredible connective power of his Silk Road administration, which part of Genghis Khan's incredible story and administrative legacy surprised you the most? Think about what modern leaders and executives can learn from this complex legacy and how those ancient administrative innovations still shape the very globalized world we operate in today. Thanks for joining us, and keep questioning how the past builds the frameworks of our present.